Should you get and build Aurora? Short answer, probably yes. Long answer, this entire video.
ドクター、私はオーロラ、クロージャさんから話はよく聞いてるよ。
Lola, also known as Aurora, is a 5-star duelist defender from Keharag. Studied in Colombia on a grant from Silver Ash family. But one misfortune made her contracted oropathy and must stop her studies. She then came to Rhodes Island for treatment. And now active in various missions as an engineer and field operation operator. Aurora is the second duelist after Untitled. She attack, she protect, but most importantly, she cute as heck. Well, much like other operators during her debut event, she has the ability to inflict cold and gain even more benefits from frozen enemy. So how does cold and frozen debuff combined with a duelist high stats? We will see. As a duelist defender, Aurora can only gain SP when blocking. This is a very troublesome trait. As long as they are not blocking enemy, duelist cannot in any way gain SP. Even with an SP battery from Liscom, Telopsis, or some other item. Moving to Aurora general stats. One thing you need to notice is that this archetype can only block one enemy, whereas most defender can block 3. But this defender archetype is stacked with high defensive and defensive stats. So as the name suggests, they are suitable to duel with one enemy from elite to bosses. Although they don't have resistance, and their DP cost is also quite high. And again because of their block count, they are not suitable to become a core defender, to block multiple enemy at once. Moving on, this is her talent. When skill not active and Aurora's SP bar is less, or equal to half of the maximum, Aurora will stop attacking and recover her HP. The HP regen is quite big, especially with her potential and module. But because of the condition it needs to active, it doesn't really make her self-sufficient. Her inability to attack enemy with this talent is kind of a good thing. Using duelist defender, we usually charge their skill by blocking weaker enemy, then unleash the skill for the bigger foe. But due to duelist big attack stats, weaker enemies tends to die too quickly to charge the skills. And it seems this talent is an attempt to fix that. But her inability to attack can also be a drawback. If you use her to hold a lane, she can get overrun because she didn't attack or kill the enemy she blocks. Though when I use her, this talent is usually helpful rather than being a drawback. And this is her potentials upgrade. I think Aurora is fine without potentials, but that talent enhancement is pretty useful. And this is her module that should be available in Stilti for an Arvis event. Duelist Defender got a very impactful upgrade once their module is unlocked. The first stage of the module will make them gain SP by a small amount when not blocking. But it's not just that, this means they can now be partnered with SP Battery Operator, without the need for them to block the enemy first. Overall a tier S module, that really helped this archetype main problem. And after the introduction of module stage 2 and 3 upgrade in Lingering Echoes event, I will also review her module upgrade. While I recommend you to unlock her module if you use her, to upgrading the module to stage 2 or even 3, maybe you shouldn't. As the module upgrade will only increase her stats by a small amount, and increase her HP regeneration talent by also a small amount. Since Aurora's regeneration is not so dependable, the effect you get are too small to justify the material cost. Now moving to her skills. Her first skill. Increase her block count, increase her defense and gain status resistance. And Aurora will be stunned for 5 seconds after using the skill. Although the defense is very high and resistance can be useful in some situation. But for a purely defensive skill and to block multiple enemies, it's better not to use Aurora. Especially since she will get stunned once the skill ends. As for her second skill. Slightly increase her attack interval to around 2 seconds. Increase her attack, and inflict cold to enemy. And if she attacks frozen enemy, she will deal high critical damage. Pretty much she becomes the Yeti Ice Cleaver with this skill. Thankfully the increased attack interval isn't too big. so Aurora can inflict frozen to enemy by herself. This skill use ammo, and normally it takes 3 ammo for Aurora to inflict frozen and deal critical damage. The damage she inflicts cannot be simply ignored, even at Elite 1. Not to mention the skill has a pretty cheap SP cost despite her need to block enemy first. But while the damage is great, keep in mind the skill is reliant on frozen effect. If it's just her alone to inflict the frozen, it's not very nice to solo an elite or boss, as she will only deal critical hits 3 times. While in her debut event it is pretty nice to use her because enemy can get cold, or frozen naturally. Outside of that, you might need to bring another operator who can inflict cold. Damn, if only this skill is not an ammo type. Aurora and A can become a great partner. For skill masteries, I don't think there's a skill mastery priority for Aurora. As a defender that is tend to be used for offensive. Her S2 is the one that is mostly used. While it is good, there's not much to gain from mastery, as it's only increased the attack and critical damage by small amount. As for her base skills, increase other defender mastery training speed by 30%. If they are training for M1, additionally increase it by 45%. So, will Aurora become a good operator for your team? Although this defender isn't that good for defense, especially blocking multiple enemy, Aurora is a pretty awesome damage dealer. Even at Elite 1 her massive defensive and offensive stats can be useful. And unlike Arknights, her SP cost is cheap even though she need to block enemy first. So she's pretty good for newbie. But to make the most of her as a damager, you need other operator who can inflict cold, especially someone like Gnosis. That should be all. Adios.
Ora, ora!